This is Dr. Rob Harder with the Nonprofit Leadership Podcast, Making Your World Better. What does it take to be an effective nonprofit leader today? What are the biggest challenges? What are the biggest obstacles? How should nonprofits fundraise in an economy that is constantly changing? All of these reasons combined led me to start this show. And it's my hope that through this series, people can learn not only what it takes to be an effective nonprofit organization, but to hear from effective leaders who are successfully making a positive impact in their communities. We hope you enjoy the show as together we hear how they are making their world better. Marketing can often be one of those areas we as nonprofit leaders underestimate when it comes to the impact effective marketing can have. So what is the best model for growing your nonprofit through your marketing? Which platforms are best suited for attracting and retaining new donors? And why is the Google Ad Grant such a great way for nonprofits to inexpensively expand their marketing? These and other questions will be answered by Eric Linssen, my guest on today's show. Eric has the role of demand generation at Community Boost. Community Boost is a marketing company that seeks to help nonprofit organizations by providing their digital marketing expertise to help nonprofits create greater social impact. Now, not only will Eric give you some great insights today, but he will talk about their marketing summit that is happening this week. Thanks for listening. Eric, it's great to have you on the show today. Now, first of all, tell my listeners all about Community Boost. What do you do? How did they get started? And what is your role there?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. I've been following the podcast for a while, and I'm excited to finally, hopefully, contribute some of our insights. So yeah, telling a little bit about Community Boost. We're a nonprofit marketing agency that works directly with around 200 nonprofits to help them scale online revenue and impact. So basically, focused on scaling online revenue for 200 nonprofits in almost every digital domain. So that looks like managing Facebook and Instagram ads, or managing the Google Ad Grant. We're one of Google's first certified professionals, doing SEO, creating content, website design, building recurring giving programs, kind of just working really directly and in the weeds with a lot of nonprofits to help scale online revenue and impact. And then from working with these 200 plus nonprofits, we generate a lot of learnings and insights that you can really only get from being in the weeds, executing, being practitioners in all these channels. We've had conversations internally where we say it's great that we can work with 200 nonprofits, but not every nonprofit has a budget to hire Community Boost or even the internal resources. What if we can share the insights we're learning with, hopefully hundreds of thousands of nonprofits to really help the space get better at what they do? So that's kind of the mission that I'm helping lead at Community Boost, which is a lot of education of the space. And that's where coming on podcasts like this one, we're creating webinars and blogs. We're creating a nonprofit marketing summit, which is an event we put on twice a year, and all that stuff. So I'm excited to try to share some of the key insights and learnings that we're cultivating here at Community Boost.
Now that sounds really good. And I'm glad you mentioned the summit. That is happening this week. So tell me about the marketing summit. What is it about? What kind of speakers will you have? And what are you hoping to get across to the attenders of the summit?
Yeah, definitely. So like I was saying, we have this commitment to really educating the space. And when COVID hit, we thought we had this opportunity to bring some of our key insights together in a format that's virtual and that could reach all across the United States. And so we've started this nonprofit marketing summit. We had our first ever one last August, and then had our second one in February, and we're having our third one August 4th and 5th. So this week, which we're really excited for. But the whole goal is really bringing together the best and brightest minds in the space and having the audience that lets us get some of the most powerful and intelligent minds to come and share what they've learned. So since we have a large audience of, 11,000 nonprofits attending, we can get people from HubSpot talking about multi-touch revenue attribution, or people from Facebook talking about what their best practices for Facebook ads are, or we have a panel with the Giving Block and Save the Children and American Cancer Society and United Way Worldwide. So really getting the best of the best in the space to come together and share what has really worked for them. And then I think what makes our conference different is really two key characteristics. The first being that I think the word nonprofit marketing used to be almost a bad word in this space, where we're like, we can't invest in growth, we can't invest in marketing. We really need to keep our overhead low. And thankfully, in the past couple of years, that's been reversed. And we've understood that it's actually really important to focus on growing our organization so we can really scale our impact, which is what we're all focused on. So really all our content focuses on nonprofit marketing. We don't have much fluffy content. Almost all of it is really tactical or diving into really strategic goals that translate directly into tactics. So all about nonprofit marketing and all tactical and actionable insights that you can go and implement at work the next day. So we've had people for past summits say, hey, this actually made me excited to go to work on Monday, which that's like our ideal goal, to give tactical insights that people can really implement right away.
I love that. Now, remind me, how many years have you offered this summit?
Yeah, so we started right when COVID started. To be frank, we had a lot of speaking engagements for Community Boost at other in-person events, and they all got canceled. So we just thought, why don't we put together our own event? And we just had a one-day event in August of 2020, and it ended up just gaining a lot of traction, a lot of organic growth of just people telling their friends about it. Had about 2,500 nonprofits register, and then had our second one in February where we were hoping to get 5,000 nonprofits in attendance and ended up getting 10,000 just from nonprofits nonprofit leaders telling their friends and bringing their boss and their colleagues. And so after that, we were like, I really think we're onto something. I think it's serving a need that the space really wants to learn about. And so, yeah, we're hosting our next one on August 4th and 5th, which we've been putting a lot of work and blood, sweat, and tears into. So I'm excited to have it culminate 2 days from now.
Wow, that's tremendous growth. I'm really impressed. To grow from 2,500 to 10,000 in that short amount of time is a huge increase. How did you grow so quickly? What do you point to as the reason for your success?
Yeah, to be honest, I think a couple things. One, the format of it being completely virtual in that space. Also, we got lucky that we're obsessed with nonprofit marketing at Community Boost, and that's what our summit was about. And that fit into a larger wave and a larger trend in the space. So we kind of caught on to that, which I think was really beneficial. And then, like I said, we've been to a lot of nonprofit marketing conferences, and there's a lot of great conferences and content out there. One of the things that we took away from our experiences was we need our content to be as actionable and tactical as possible, and we need it to be entertaining and fast-paced and fun. So we had like TED Talk style sessions that were 25 to 30 minutes, and making sure that all the content was incredibly actionable and tactical. And I think that really served a need and a want in the space. And from that, when we look back at the metrics of the event growth, almost a massive portion of the growth came from organic growth and like word of mouth and referrals. So yeah, it just comes to the importance of having something that people really want. And then once you do, making sure to allocate the resources to capitalize on that opportunity.
Well done on your summit. Okay, now let's get to some of this great content. For those who may not be able to attend this summit, what kind of content are you hoping to bundle together for those, again, who may miss this summit?
Yeah, so again, we put this summit together. We have a lot of other educational resources. We have like a 6-hour Google Ad Grant Academy that we've put together. And a lot of people can make the summit on the day of, but a lot of people can't. So we want to create a resource for people to be able to go over a lot of the recordings. It's physically impossible to see each session on the day of because there's 3 concurrent tracks. So to have all those resources in one place, we record everything from the summit. We compile all the decks and put those together in a beautiful online platform where you can go through each session and like track your learning. And it's a great experience to be able to actually start to implement the things that you've learned all in one place at the summit. So that comes with our VIP all access pass for listeners to this podcast. If you check that out on the website, which is nonprofitmarketingsummit.org/VIP, you can enter the code NPO leader at checkout, and then you can get 50% off of that. If you have any questions about that, just shoot myself an email at eric@communityboost.org. But we're excited. I know this podcast is going to air during or towards the end of the event. So we have a lot of great content. You can check that out on the website. And I want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to be able to actually see the content and learn from it and make the most of it.
No, I know. I'm disappointed I wasn't able to get this in front of my listeners sooner, but next year I'm planning to get this out well ahead of time so they're aware of it and hopefully can attend this summit. Now, having said that, I'm glad you at least have this bundle of information and resources that you can offer to those after the summit itself. And I'll make sure that link will be included with this post online. Okay, now let's dive into a bit of the great tactical content that you offer through Community Boost. You do this through your seminars and obviously some of the things that will be offered at the summit. So I know I asked you ahead of time to give us 3 key insights that would be really helpful for my listeners when it comes to their nonprofit organization. Let's dive into the first question. Could you share how nonprofit leaders can grow their organization both qualitatively and quantitatively, particularly when it comes to a model that leads to further growth and can be scaled? Talk about that. Like, how do they go about developing a model? What is the right model? And how do they go about starting that?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm a little bit biased here. This is some of the content that I've been leading at Community Boost and that I'm going to be presenting at the summit. But we're working with all these nonprofits and we're creating all of this content. We've always had a focus on really tactical, actionable content. So stuff like, here are the 10 tips to really make Facebook and Instagram ads work. 5 tips and strategies that we've seen work for other organizations to scale your Google ad grants and make them a profitable channel, or SEO tips and tactics. But what we've found is that it's really easy, especially with smaller marketing teams, to get distracted by all these shiny objects and to kind of lose the forest for the trees. And you just get pulled in a bunch of different directions. And sometimes it can be hard to make actual tangible progress. So how you can really systematically think about growth and be able to prioritize what tactics you think will have a real impact on how your organization grows is really important. So we've done a lot of research, and there are a lot of growth models for different organizations, a lot of for-profit organizations as well. And think about a growth model as just draw on a whiteboard how your organization grows. So a flywheel is a great example. There's a pretty famous example of like Amazon's flywheel, where they show how growing Amazon leads to lower prices, which leads to more selection, which leads to more traffic, which brings more sellers to the platform, which leads to lower prices. And the flywheel continues. There's examples for other for-profit companies. For us, we came together with a one-size-fits-all type of model for nonprofits that looks at enrollment. So how do you enroll people in your mission, acquire net new names? Engagement, how do you engage those people and get them to change their relationship with your organization from having just heard of you to having a long-time loving relationship? And then empowerment, which is how you empower them to support your organization. So the goal of having a model is, it's not as important which model you have, but just that you have one. So that you can go to everyone in your organization and ask them, hey, how does our nonprofit grow? And they can draw on a whiteboard. For example, we acquire donors through local SEO and PR and paid ads. We acquire new people. They go to our museum exhibits, and that's how they engage with us. And then empowerment is them buying tickets to our museum and fundraising, which then gets reinvested back into nonprofit marketing and growth initiatives. So once you have that as a qualitative model, then you can turn that into a quantitative model, which looks like, through all of these channels, what can we forecast as far as net new donors? What can we forecast as retention of how we retain them? And then what can we forecast as our, empowerment to our value per donor, or however that shakes out for your organization, whether it's a donor or someone attending an exhibit. And once you have a quantitative model, then it's just a beautiful place where you can start to have those conversations internally of, hey, I've seen nonprofits using TikTok, or I've seen nonprofits running Facebook and Instagram ads. I don't know if that would work for us. Get some benchmark data, and there's plenty of it out there, and see how it would plug into your growth model, and if it makes sense to invest in that or to invest in, organic social or something else. And then the final thing that's really beneficial about that is you have this growth model that's quantitative and in one place, and it's documented. So when you bring on new team members, instead of having to disseminate the information that's trapped in a bunch of people's brains, you have it all in one place in a centralized document, and they can learn really quickly. So I'm really excited about some of the work we're doing around the nonprofit growth model and helping nonprofits, before we talk about tactics, really understand the strategy and how tactics fit into each part of their growth, and if they should even consider learning more about how to implement them directly. So that was a rambly answer, but I hope that was somewhat helpful.
We'll be right back. Hey, friends. Thanks so much for listening to the Nonprofit Leadership Podcast. If this is your first time listening to us, I want to make sure you're aware of a whole group of other episodes with fascinating guests that I previously interviewed. Just go to our website, nonprofitleadershippodcast.org. There you'll find numerous interviews of nonprofit leaders from all over the country and even from different countries, all trying to make their world better. I also want to encourage you to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with others. This will help us get this great content out to more nonprofit leaders just like you. Now, finally, if you want to get my monthly email update that contains more resources in addition to these episodes, It's really easy. Just go to my website at nonprofitleadershippodcast.org and simply type your email address in the top right-hand box, and you'll be added to our monthly email update. And this way, you'll never miss any of the interviews or extra content from this show. And if you have any questions or comments, do not hesitate to email me. Thanks again for listening. Now back to the show. No, that's excellent. Very helpful. Okay, now when it comes to social media, you have mentioned that the two best platforms to use for marketing are Facebook and Instagram. Now, these are simply the best mediums to attract and retain new donors from what you've told me. Now, talk about that. Why those two? And how does one go about developing a good presence on Facebook and Instagram?
Yeah, definitely. So again, this is something I could talk all day about. I nerd out about Facebook and Instagram ads. So to be clear, you buy ads in Facebook Ads Manager, and then it gets distributed to both Instagram and Facebook ad platforms. But it's just from what we've seen, managing like millions of dollars in ad spend for hundreds of nonprofits and working with hundreds of nonprofits in a lot of different channels. There's no channel that can as effectively, scalably, and measurably help you acquire and retain new donors. So think about the crazy stat that I read recently was that Facebook, Instagram, and the WhatsApp ecosystem have around 3 billion monthly active users, which is more than any major religion, movement, or book in the history of mankind, other than the Bible or the game of soccer. But so we talk to nonprofits who will say, hey, I don't think our donors are an older donor base. I don't think they're on Facebook or Instagram. We're like, they have 3 billion monthly active users. Your donors are on Instagram. We've seen it play out for the nonprofits that we work with. So it has that intense scale of everyone you can reach. And then it has hyper-personalization based on the billions of data points they have, people who are likely to donate to nonprofits, people who are interested in certain online activities, people who have done certain activities on websites. If you can give the ad platform and the algorithm data around who your types of people, or even just a list of your current donors, you can find people based on their online activity who are extremely similar and likely to take the same actions as you. And you can hyper-personalize content to people in each stage. And then you can report on it. So, I mean, when else in marketing in general have we had the opportunity to literally see, I spent $5 in ads and generated $20 of revenue, and be able to prove whether it's to your board or to your team or to anyone that you want to prove the effectiveness of marketing. These digital channels, mainly Facebook and Instagram, but also Google and LinkedIn ads as well, all allow you to really effectively measure how your marketing spend is turning into real revenue for your organization. So that's kind of the pitch of why organizations should focus on Facebook and Instagram ads. I'm not gonna go into detail of how to implement the channels. We have a lot of content both in our summit. We have Martha Pena who works at Facebook sharing specific tactics, and then we have a specific workshop session on Friday about how to actually like audit an ad account and really tactical advice. We also have at communityboost.org, we have webinars and free resources that go into pretty in-depth detail of specific tips on how to make the most of your Facebook and Instagram ads. So my call to action is to please do research and check out those resources, and also to really, roll up your sleeves and become a practitioner and dive into them, because the real learning comes from actually trying and testing and seeing what works for yourself.
No, thanks for giving us enough to work with, but also to encourage us to do more research. All right, now the third thing, I want to talk about Google Ad Grants. Now, these, I believe, are potential gold mines for nonprofits. But give us a quick 101 overview. Like, what are these grants? How do they work? And why are they so effective in your mind?
Yeah, so I was just talking to you about this before the show, about how they've been super helpful for yourself as well. But it still baffles me that some nonprofits haven't heard of this yet. The Google Ad Grant is an initiative that Google started a while ago, where basically they'll donate $10,000 a month of in-kind advertising spend for you to use to run Google ads. So there are some stipulations around like what type of keywords you can bid on and your cost per click. And then once you dive deeper into the channel, you can understand how to use different bidding strategies and tactics to get around those stipulations and make the most of the ad grant. But what I'll start with is, if you haven't heard of the Google Ad Grant, Google the Google Ad Grant, and you'll see that it's $10,000 a month of advertising spend that can really help you reach people who are learning about your organization. So going back to that growth model, you look at the enrollment stage. How do we enroll new people in our organization, we worked at the Trevor Project, for example, and then we'd bid on keywords like LGBTQ suicide awareness. And then people who were Googling those terms who had that genuine search intent would, find the organization. And that's a great way to get people to your website, and then using some sort of conversion design on the website. So pop-up elements to get them to give you their email address once they're on the website. And then you have their email address and you can start to market to them with really quality content and kind of move them from someone who's just heard of you to someone who's continuing to learn more about you. So I think that's a great place where it fits. It can work concurrently with Facebook and Instagram ads, where you can drive people to the website for free, and then you can retarget people who visit certain web pages using Facebook and Instagram ads. So with specific content that's contextual to the web page that they visited. But there are a lot of awesome use cases. Again, if you visit our website, not to continue to shamelessly plug myself, but we put together a lot of research on Google Ad Grants. That's how we started as a company. We're one of Google's first certified ad grant professionals. And so that's really what we live and breathe. And we love sharing specific tactics that we've seen work there. So yeah, I would definitely check out that stuff. And if you haven't, I guess two things. If you haven't learned about the Google Ad Grant, check it out. And also we talk to organizations who say we've tried the Google Ad Grant, but it hasn't worked. Put some genuine time into really learning about it and trying some new strategies, because if it can work, it's $10,000 a month of free advertising spend, $120,000 a year. So it warrants putting some real resources into trying to make it work. And we've seen it be, an amazing channel for some of the organizations we work with.
No, I'm really glad you explained that. I can share from my point of view with the nonprofit that I lead. We have utilized Google Grants, and it's pretty easy, and it's been very effective so far. So I encourage all of you that are listening, definitely implement these into your nonprofit. Well worth it. They've been well worth it for us personally. Well, again, Eric, this has been fascinating. Thanks again for letting us know about Community Boost and, of course, about the summit. Now, remind us one more time, how can people find out more about Community Boost, the summit, and then, of course, how can they access that content bundle that you're offering from the summit this week? What's the website again?
Yeah, definitely. So if you want to learn more about Community Boost, which is our agency, just head to communityboost.org. So communityboost.org. And then if you want to learn about the summit, it's the Nonprofit Marketing Summit. Just Google Nonprofit Marketing Summit. If you're listening to this podcast on August 5th, then we still have a third day. So we have 2 days where we're having a lot of content from speakers like Facebook and HubSpot and Save the Children and, Days for Girls and all these awesome organizations. And then the third day is a VIP only workshop focused day where nonprofits can really come, and we'll give you really tactical, specific tips. So we have a Google Ad Grant audit where we'll audit an account live or show really specific tips we use with our Facebook and Instagram ads. And we focus a lot, especially given the timing, on year-end fundraising. So we have a whole room in the third day where we're only talking about year-end fundraising and the tactics that we see work for the 200 nonprofits that we work with. So if you're listening to this before August 6th, definitely check out that VIP only third day. It's nonprofitmarketingsummit.org/VIP. And then if you're listening to this afterwards, again, use that coupon code MPO Leader, and you can find that at nonprofitmarketingsummit.org/VIP again, and you can get all of the recordings to the whole event. So the first 2 days and the VIP only third day, as well as we have like a 6-hour Google Ad Grant Academy, which is like a 6-hour course specifically focused on how to make the most of your Google Ad Grant that goes step by step. It's coursified with quizzes to ensure you're learning. So that's included as well. And that's all 50% off with the code MPO Leader. So I really encourage everyone to check that out. We also put a lot of effort into making free content if that's not affordable. And then if you have any other questions or concerns or just want to book time with our team to chat, you can shoot me an email at eric@communityboost.org. So that's ERIC@communityboost.org. And we exist to empower social ventures, changing the world. So any way we can help nonprofits more effectively market and grow online, that's what we're here for. So I'm excited to make some connections. And thanks so much for having me on.
Well, Eric, I love your enthusiasm. Thanks for all you're doing to strengthen the nonprofit sector. Thanks for offering this summit too. I think it's going to be a really rich learning experience from all that I've read and heard about it. So perhaps you're listening to this podcast and you're the marketing director for your organization. I encourage you to check out the summit or at least get the content bundle, or maybe you're the executive director. I know as an executive director myself and all of us that listen or who are CEOs or executive directors, you wear many hats. and marketing may be a hat that you're wearing right now. I would encourage you to attend the summit, get this material. I think it'll be very useful and beneficial to your organization. Now, again, Eric, thanks for taking time to be on the show, and good luck this week with the summit. We hope it goes really well.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Hey friends, I wanted you to know that this podcast can be found on both iTunes and Spotify. If you're wondering how to find it, just type in the words Nonprofit Leadership Podcast and this podcast should show up. We also encourage you, when you go on iTunes, let us know what you think. Give us a review, give us a rating. We would love to hear what you think of this podcast, and your feedback will help expand this podcast to get it out to as many people as possible. You can also find other resources and interviews of past guests on my website, nonprofitleadershippodcast.org. Again, that website is nonprofitleadershippodcast.org. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, keep making your world better.